Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Daily Democracy Report. Today is Thursday, April 24th, 2025. Get the housekeeping out of the way. Please like and subscribe to the channel if you do like the content you're seeing here. Also, you can follow the ticker at the bottom. You can support us one way is through buymeacoffee.com/. The Daily Democracy Report, or you can scan the QR tag in the lower left of the screen, and you can also follow us at Blue Sky at the address below. So, with all that out of the way, I wanted to first talk about something a little off topic. Colorado Avalanche. I am a big fan of the Colorado Avalanche hockey team. They're in the first round of the playoffs. They are currently down 2-1 to the Dallas Stars. That's not cool, but they're playing hard. So next game is at home on April 26th, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 7:30 p.m. Mountain Time. Yep, I think so. Yep, that sounds right. So go out there and root for hockey, man. It's a great time of year for NHL playoffs. Also, I wanted to talk about the stock market today. So far, it's looking pretty good since Trump tucked his tail, I guess you could say, and basically chickened out on the tariffs is what China is saying, and not yet, but apparently they're going to go down by over 50%, which is good news. It's still too high, still unnecessary, but it's there. Necessary to a degree of trying to, get China to stop stealing IPs, things like that. But that should help a little bit with small businesses here in the United States in trying to get their business done. So we'll see how that goes. But the stock markets are looking better today. Nothing extravagant, but it's not red, so that's a good sign. So far, so good on the markets today. So the topic of today I wanted to talk about is the war in Ukraine, the peace talks that are or aren't going on. It's just kind of nuts what's going on, and I wanted to talk about that a bit today. And probably won't be a long video, but just wanted to talk about it, remind everybody of how things got to where they are today. So I'm just going to go through a little bit of a timeline here to catch everybody up. If you haven't been following along in the last couple of years. So the war that we're currently talking about started on 24 February of 2022. Russia invaded Ukraine. Okay, that is a fact. Ukraine did not start the war, as people in Trump land like to think, or MAGA people like to tell everybody. Ukraine did not start the war. Russia invaded Ukraine. Preceding this war, Russia was staging a military buildup in 2021, demanding security measures and legal prohibitions against Ukraine joining NATO. So basically they're saying, hey, you guys can't join NATO, this, that, the other thing. Ukraine obviously said, screw you. On November of 2021, Russian troops had unusual movements near the Ukraine borders, right? So they're kind of amassing troops around, saying that they're having exercises and military training and things like that. On 7 December of 2021, at the time, President Joe Biden warned Vladimir Putin of economic and other pressures if it did attack Ukraine. 10 days later, on 17 December 2021, Putin proposed this prohibition of Ukraine joining NATO. Ukraine rejected that. So that led to basically 24 Feb 2022, when Russia finally invaded Ukraine. There were some other things that led up to that, but that's the gist of it. So now you're kind of up to date here, right? There's a number of other things leading up to that we'll get to in watching a couple clips here, and then talking about a little bit more on what this peace plan that the United States and Donald Trump is trying to broker, or I guess I should say Marco Rubio should be the one trying to broker this, but apparently he was absent and did not show up for the latest peace talks that were supposed to take place, that did take place in in London, England, and yeah, didn't show up apparently. So anyway, let's get to the first clip. This one is, let's see. Yeah, well, I'm just gonna play it, and then we can talk about it on the other side here. This is from Good Morning America, and we'll just play this. Here we go.
Out of the war in Ukraine. Overnight, Russia pounding Kyiv with missiles and drone strikes. This as President Trump attacked Ukraine's President Zelensky after he pushed back on a U.S. proposal to end the war with Russia that calls for Ukraine to give up territory. Chief Global Affairs anchor Martha Raz tracking the latest on that. Good morning, Martha.
Good morning, George. These verbal assaults on Zelensky come as Russia, which launched the invasion into Ukraine 3 years ago, overnight launched another massive attack.
Overnight, Russia pounding Ukraine with missiles and drone strikes, rocking the capital, Kyiv. The attack is the deadliest in the city since last summer, leaving at least 9 dead and more than 70 injured. This while President Trump is reigniting his war of words with Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky, demanding Zelensky accept a U.S. proposed peace deal that heavily favors Russia, prohibiting NATO membership for Ukraine, and forcing Ukraine to surrender territory Russia seized since its 2022 invasion, and Crimea. Zelensky said, "There's nothing to talk about. It is our territory, the territory of the Ukrainian people." Lashing out on social media, Trump warning Zelensky can have peace or he can fight for another 3 years before losing the whole country. The man with no cards to play should now finally get it done. Later in the Oval Office, somewhat softening his tone.
So I just wanted to stop right there. I'm going to continue this one for a little bit longer, but I just wanted to say that it is so, I just think for a United States president to be talking about a sovereign democratic to talk to a sovereign democratic country that's currently being invaded by a communist dictator, that they need to like make a deal, there have no more cards to play, that all this is going to go to Russia. It all favors Russia, right? So I don't understand. Well, I do understand. Trump wants to be a dictator like all his buddies, like Putin, the people with all this power. And he's just going to cede everything to Russia and say, just take whatever you want from Ukraine. Where you're at right now, we'll just draw the line and you can have all that. It's kind of disgusting. Here we go.
As soon as they agree, the killing will stop. But yeah, I think they went well.
President also saying he believed Russia was ready to sign, but that is not a surprise since Russia would benefit. This is the territory Russia would annex in the deal currently on the table. Ukrainian officials saying they are ready to negotiate, not surrender. But the White House is demanding this deal be final and is doubling down on threats to abandon negotiation.
Now, here about to talk is the biggest douchebag that I've ever seen in my entire life. This is the Vice President of the United States. This guy went from Democrat, I guess hillbilly first, to Democrat, now to, I don't know, I guess the dictator's little, I don't know, a jester, court jester or something. I don't know. This guy is just pure fucking evil. And I don't understand how this guy can look at himself in the mirror.
We've issued a very explicit proposal to both the Russians and the Ukrainians, and it's time for them to either say yes or for the United States to walk away from this process.
So I wanted to stop there with this one. So we're basically gotten to the point where the United States is no longer a champion for democracy, no longer going to stand by our allies and stand by, countries that are trying to defend democracy. We're just going to say, screw you. If there's nothing in it for us, just let, or I think the better way to probably say it is, we like those dictator authoritarianism kind of countries a heck of a lot better than democratic countries. And then what does that say about the United States? And what does that say about our allies that are looking at us in this moment in time and saying, do we really want to deal with these guys anymore? Is the United States really that shining beacon on a hill, that place that freedom reigns, and that if I was another country, if I was a European country, a democratic country that's looked up to the United States before, I'd be like, no, I think it's every man for themselves at this point. Let's stick with our European Union. Let's stick with NATO. And not depend on the United States. Maybe that's what Trump wants. But I think it's pretty sad that we're just, turning the other cheek here with this Ukraine war. It's sad, and it's sad. It really is. So let's hear from the orange dictator here. He's going to talk about this this whole thing. Here you go.
Are you going to be meeting with President Zelensky? He's asked to meet with you this weekend. Will you be meeting with him?
I don't know. I don't know that he's going to the funeral or not, but I just hope he gets this thing solved, because we're losing about, think of this, 5,000. I was saying 2,500.
Did you hear what he said there? I'll rewind it. He wants to make sure that Zelensky gets this thing solved. He needs to get this thing solved. Zelensky does. So we're going to talk about what all this concession stuff is going to be at the end of this, but just remember, he said Zelensky needs to get this solved,
because we're losing about, think of this, 5,000. I was saying 2,500, and everyone was telling me that's low. 5,000 soldiers are being killed every week, approximately. Think of that.
Then if all those troops are being killed, then Trump needs to tell Putin, get the hell out of Ukraine. Because just think of it, let's think of it if this were the United States. Let's just hypothetically, I know this couldn't really happen with the military on either side of the border. Let's just pretend Mexico is a military power and says, okay, we're invading Texas. We're going to fight for 3 years to secure Texas. And all of a sudden, then Russia steps in as the mediator and says, okay, United States, we're going to have a peace deal here. Mexico gets to keep Texas and all the land that they've taken over. And you guys just need to walk away. And, and by the way, you can't be a part of any treaty, any peace treaties with, NATO or any of that. You guys can't do that. You just need to accept the fact that they've taken over your country or part of your country, and you need to cede that to them and just walk away, or more people will die. That's the same thing we're talking about here. There's no difference.
Every week, 5,000 soldiers, but let's say from 3,000 to 5,000 are being killed. They're Russian and Ukrainian. They're not Americans, but they're Russian, but they're people. And they're humans, they're human beings, they have families, they wave goodbye to their son, and then they get a call that the son's no longer there.
That's what happens during war, you fucking dumbass. This is war. This has been happening for 3 years now. And you have the ability to tell Putin to stop. Apparently you're good buddies with him. You should be able to just tell him, hey, you need to get the hell out of there right now.
Vicious war, and if I can help solve it, we're not losing our soldiers, but we're losing soldiers, a lot of people. And if I can solve it because of a certain ability, that would be.
If I can solve it because of a certain ability. What ability? What? That you're just going to cozy up to Putin and that's your ability? Is that he is winning here? President Xi of China is winning the trade war. Everybody else is winning, and the United States looks like a bunch of fucking fools. That is what's happening. That's your special ability.
Be great, and if it doesn't happen, I will say that I think Russia is ready, and a lot of people said Russia wanted to go for the whole thing, and I think we have a deal with Russia. We have.
I think what? Maybe he was going to say, I think they maybe should have.
You got to deal with Zelensky, and I hope that Zelensky, I thought it might be easier to deal with Zelensky. So far it's been harder, but that's okay. It's all right. But I think we have a deal with both. I hope they do it because I'm looking to save. And, you know, we spend a lot of money, but this is about a lot of humanity. This is the worst. I get the pictures, the satellite pictures. I've never seen anything like it of the fields after some of these battles. It's horrible that it's going for nothing. We would have never had this problem. You would have never had that war if I were president, I guarantee you.
Bullshit. That is total bullshit. Never would have had this war if he wasn't president. But you said that the war would be over within 24 hours of your presidency or even before. It's not over. And the way you want to make it over is by just giving everything to Putin. And that's not acceptable. That's totally unacceptable to them and to, well, me as an American. It's just terrible. So let's talk about what Russia would get under this Trump proposal, right? Russia would get U.S. recognition of Russia's control of Crimea. We didn't even talk about Crimea. Crimea, I believe that was back in 2014. That was when the Ukrainian government was going through new elections, things like that, and Russia just went in and just took Crimea and said, "This is ours. We're annexing it. It's our place." In a nutshell. So U.S. is going to recognize that Crimea is part of Russia. De facto recognition of Russia's occupation of nearly all of, I'm going to get these names wrong probably, Luhansk, and the occupied portions of Donetsk, Kherson, and Zaporizhia. I think I said that right. A promise that Ukraine will not become a member of NATO. This is what Russia gets, right? The text does note that Ukraine could become part of the European Union, but, you know, we'll see about that, I guess. The lifting of sanctions imposed since 2014. So all the sanctions against Russia will be lifted. So it's like a gift that Russia killed this many Ukrainian women, children, bombing schools, hospitals. And we're going to lift the sanctions on them because, man, good on you, Putin, for stopping the bombing. Might I remind everybody that during these peace talks, there was bombing happening. They're also going to get enhanced economic cooperation with the U.S., particularly in the energy and industrial sectors. So we're going to do more business, new business with Russia. I believe it was like maybe a year or two ago, or throughout the whole thing, as far as I'm concerned, this whole war, when it started, that people were calling Vladimir Putin a war criminal for crimes against humanity, for war crimes. Has that all gone away? Has people forgotten about that? Has our president forgotten about that? Here's what Ukraine gets. A robust security guarantee involving an ad hoc group of European countries and potentially also like-minded non-European countries. The document is vague in terms of how this peacekeeping operation would function and does not mention anything about United States cooperation. The return of small part of Kharkiv that Russia has occupied, unimpeded passage of the Dnieper River, which runs along the front line in parts of southern Ukraine, compensation and assistance for rebuilding, though the document doesn't say where the funding will come from. I'm assuming that Donald Trump's going to want to move in there and build a couple Trump towers or, you know, some hotels or something with Trump's name all over it. So that's pretty much what Ukraine gets, but there's other elements here that are maybe a little, I think, are kind of interesting on their own. I'm going to get this wrong again, but the town that I talked about before, Zaporizhia nuclear power plant, the largest such facility in Europe, will be considered as Ukrainian territory, but operated by the United States, right? Catching that? With electricity supplied to both Ukraine and Russia. So Russia gets energy out of this deal too from a nuclear power plant that they don't own, but the U.S. is going to run it. Boy, good on us. And the document references a U.S.-Ukraine minerals deal, which Trump said will be signed today. Okay. Yeah. So this plan was drafted after Trump's envoy Steve Witkoff met with Putin for more than 4 hours last week. So this was something that they cooked up with Putin, saying, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? Let's get some energy from this power plant. And they're like, sure, why not? This European countries that may or may not, give a security guarantee to Ukraine, we'll probably be able to invade them again. We'll let it die down for a few months or something, and then we'll go in and invade them again, and you guys can give us more land, and we'll make another peace plan, and blah, blah, blah. Who knows? Who knows what happens in these ridiculous meetings, right? So that's the plan. Now, Ukraine has said, no, we don't like that. It's a non-starter, as you heard from the clip earlier. So now where is it? Where are things stand? So apparently, little Marco said last week that the U.S. is going to walk away. That's it. U.S. is done. We're going to walk away. Nothing to see here. Here's the map here I wanted to show. Everything highlighted in that kind of pink or salmon kind of color is everything that Russia would get. That's what they have currently invaded, and it's what they're currently occupying. So that's what they would get, basically. Everything you're occupying, pretty much you're getting all that. So it's kind of a win for Russia. Or a win for Vladimir Putin. Probably not the Russian people. A lot of people have died. Trump wasn't wrong on that one. A lot of people died. For what? I don't know. I guess Russia could invade them and got their sanctions lifted by the United States. And they're going to get new deals with the United States. Boy, it sounds like a good plan. And they're getting a nuclear power from a nuclear power plant in Ukraine. Good on them. So it's a win for Vladimir Putin. And once again, the United States looks like a bunch of fools, I think. So anyway, that's what I had to talk about today. It is a little longer rant than I planned on. Apologize for the language. I get very spun up over this kind of thing. And I think it's wrong. It's not the United States that I grew up with and believing in. And the children of today are growing up with this in their heads, on their TVs, and thinking that this is the United States of America. This is not the United States of America. So anyway, I'll leave you all with that today. Thanks a lot for watching. Again, please like and subscribe and support the channel if you'd like. And thanks again. And we will talk to you all tomorrow. Tomorrow at noon Eastern time, we're going to have the weekly wrap-up show. It is Friday already tomorrow. I can't believe it. It's been a really fast week with news. So thanks again. Take care. Be good to each other, and we will talk to you all next time. Thanks again. Bye-bye.